Each week on Culinary Confidential, Christina Cates, a seasoned foodie who has worked at some of New York City's top restaurants, will share her passion for the culinary world. Whether you're a professional chef, a restaurant enthusiast, or a lover of good food, Christina dives into the heart of hospitality, exploring the trends, triumphs, and challenges facing the food service profession. And you won't want to miss her chats with some of the most interesting and influential industry voices. And now, please take your seat at the table as Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates starts now, exclusively on AM 970, The Answer.
Welcome to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates. This show is produced in association with my dear friend, Lucas A. Ferrara. Tonight on Culinary Confidential, we're shining a spotlight on a very specific breed of visionary, the hospitality entrepreneur, the kind of leader who doesn't just open doors, but builds a culture, a brand, and a business that can scale without losing its soul. And my guest this evening is exactly that. I'm joined by Thierry Vale, the co-founder and CEO behind Bagelstein, a fast casual brand born in Strasbourg, France, that's grown into a recognizable name across France and beyond. Now, Thierry's story isn't the typical, I always knew I'd be in food storyline. His path is layered, global, and honestly, very entrepreneurial in the truest sense of the word. Before Bagelstein, Thierry built a foundation in finance and operations. He's described as a French chartered accountant with a background that includes PricewaterhouseCoopers for about a decade, and he's also been billed as a Harvard Business School graduate in speaker bios. And then, plot twist, he made a leap that speaks to the heart of hospitality, entrepreneurship. He moved from the structured world of numbers into the messy, high-stakes world of experience and people, even stepping into leadership around the racing club de Strasbourg football world before going all in on building concepts. Because that's what hospitality entrepreneurs do. They take risk that can't be spreadsheeted. They bet on taste, energy, neighborhoods, timing, and human behavior. And that brings us to Bagelstein. Bagelstein launched its first shops in France in 2011, positioning itself in that sweet spot of fast casual. Approachable, quick, branded, and built for everyday life. Think along the lines of breakfast, lunch, grab and go, without losing a sense of identity. One of the things that stands out in the brand story is how seriously it takes production and consistency. Bagelstein has talked about bakery and pastry production coming out of its own workshop, which is a big deal when you're trying to scale while keeping quality and brand standards tight. And scale it has. By 2024 reportings, Bagelstein was operating around 70 stores in France, plus additional locations in nearby European markets like Italy, Luxembourg, and Switzerland. It's also been making international moves, including a push into India through a master franchise partnership, with ambitious plans reported for 100 stores by 2029. So tonight, we're going to talk about what it takes to build a hospitality business that grows, without collapsing under its own weight. Because here's the reality. Entrepreneurship in hospitality is both glamorized and underestimated. People see the packed dining rooms, the branding, the product, the vibe. They don't always see the decisions behind the scenes. The labor puzzle, supply chain surprises, real estate pressure, competition on every corner, and the daily challenge of delivering consistency in a business powered by humans. And the industry itself is enormous. In the U.S. alone, the National Restaurant Association forecasts the broader restaurant and food service world to reach $1.5 trillion in sales in 2025, with total employment projected at 15.9 million people. That's not niche. That's one of the biggest engines in the economy. The association also notes there are more than 1 million restaurant and food service outlets, which means the playing field is massive and the competition is relentless. And let's clear up a myth while we're here, because every entrepreneur hears it, that 90% of restaurants fail in the first year. Newer industry analysis has pushed back hard on that claim. For example, Data Essential reported a much lower first-year failure rate in 2025. The truth is more nuanced. Hospitality is hard, but it's not hopeless. And the winners tend to be the ones who treat it like both an art and a system. So tonight, Thierry Vale, we're going to get into how you go from finance and operations to building a food brand, how you standardize quality at scale, especially when your product is fresh and your customers are daily repeat guests, and what makes a hospitality entrepreneur different from someone who simply owns a restaurant. We'll talk growth strategy, franchising realities, brand identity, and what it means to build something that can travel from Strasbourg to the rest of Europe and beyond. So if you're a founder, a future founder, a hospitality lifer, or someone who just loves the behind-the-scenes stories of how businesses really get built, this episode is for you. I'm Christina Cates, and this is Culinary Confidential. Let's get into it. Thierry Veil of Begelstein is coming up now. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy we were able to coordinate this. I know there's a time difference and all. You're in France, I'm in New York, but I do thank you for your flexibility with the scheduling. I think before we get started, though, we should give a special hello to my best friend, Tiffany Richards, who brought us together. So hello, Tiffany, and thank you. Terry, welcome.
Well, thanks for your invitation, and thanks, Tiffany, for making it possible. You know, New York is the city where dreams come true. So I'm here today because it's also kind of dream to be here today with you.
Oh, thank you. I think, we should tell all the listeners, my friend Tiffany rents her apartment here in the city from Terry. And when she told me that you had this company, Begelstein, I said, how could you not tell me this sooner? I have to have him on the show. And then she said, oh, I didn't even think of that. Should I email him for you? And I said, no, I'll take it from here. That's all I need to know. And the rest is history. So I think it's very interesting, though, that you have this non-traditional hospitality background, right? You were an accountant with PwC, you managed a football club, and now you're in the fast casual concept world. Can you tell me a little bit about that start and why you made the pivot?
Yeah, actually, that's what I keep saying to my kids. It's like a kind of legacy. You have only one duty when you're on earth, is making your dreams come true. That's what I said just before. Make your dreams come true. The problems often, especially for a young kid after college or university, is what's my dream? And let me take time to realize what is my dream. And my first dream is an absolutely non-glamorous dream. I dreamt of working in the financial auditing business. Wow. This is absolutely non-sexy dream, but
yeah.
But I wanted to work every week in a new company, a new sector, a new kind of business with a strong methodology, the way to proceed within the company, and with teams of people that look like me. We all come from business schools in France when we were working in the financial auditing, and in a worldwide company, because I was speaking English. I've been always crazy about the United States from France. And so I joined Pricewaterhouse. At that time, there was no C. It was the Coopers were not there. And it was amazing. I loved these 12 years. I worked in different countries. I worked in New Caledonia, which you don't know where it is, but it's north of Australia. It's a little French island. I worked in Singapore. I worked in London. I worked in Palo Alto in 1997. And I remember this guy coming to me and saying, you should try this. It's brand new. It will change your life. The name is Internet. It was the beginning, the early step of internet. And so I was a Pricewaterhouse guy for 12 years and very excited to be. But after 12 years, I needed a new dream. And I said, what can be my second dream? And, soccer in Europe is different than the way that you see soccer, although that in New York, soccer has a real vision. New York has a real vision of soccer, but soccer is very popular in France. It's like basketball in the US or baseball or football. So soccer is number one sport. And so I discovered that my hometown soccer club was looking for a financial officer. So I applied. I had 9 interviews and I joined. And it was amazing because every day I was working with the people that I had on the walls of my bedroom when I was a kid a couple of years ago. This was crazy. And I loved working in the football, but I was in the soccer field, but I was too orthodox. I'm a CPA, a certified public accountant. Right. I come from Pricewaterhouse, and in France, the the lines are not always straight, let's say this. And so it took me 3 years. I say 3 years, but then I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I said, what could be a new dream to fulfill? What could be a new dream to realize? And food was always my big interest for me. So at that time, my brother-in-law and I, we opened a sushi restaurant. If I talk to you today about sushi, you say, oh, okay. But at that time, there was no sushi in France. We had 4 restaurants in the whole country.
Wow.
So nobody knew what sushi was.
You really are in the forefront of a lot of things, Thierry. I mean, you have that kind of spirit where you're not going to stay comfortable in one spot. You're going to continue to push yourself and try new things. And I think that's amazing.
This is a nice summary, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Because when, you know, in Begelstein today, in our offices and everywhere, we have this mojo saying, only dead fish follow the flow.
Yes, that's great. I'm going to use that one moving forward. Only dead fish spoil the flow. Yes, like that.
So when we created this sushi concept, and you know, we were not chef, we were not from the culinary business, we were CPA, and he was in the real estate business, so nothing was food. So we had no rules. And for instance, we created this sushi menu, but we hated the Japanese desserts with this red bean paste and this thing that I don't like, especially when you're in France, when you got high-level pastries.
Correct, yes.
So we had this sushi, we had the maki, we had the rolls, but we also had like raspberry and basil macaron. Ooh. Or praline Napolitan, or we got high-level desserts which had nothing to do with Japanese food. But then we widened the things. So we had also caramelized chicken with Coca-Cola. We had fried scallops with popcorn. We had crazy recipes. It had no rules.
Was it successful?
And it was very successful. Very successful. So we said, we want to have an expansion. We want maybe to go on franchise. But then we realized that we were too much depending on sushi chef. And at that time, it was very difficult to find sushi chef. We had to make them coming from Asia.
Yeah.
So we said, how can we build a food business with a high dependency on sushi chef? So we decided that we would find another business with a central kitchen. So we would not depend anymore on the chef. And this is how Begelstein came to birth.
So again, here you are bringing another non-traditional French item to France. Okay, so insert Begelstein here. You're French, and you built a brand around one of New York's most iconic foods, the bagel.
Definitely.
What did you see in the bagel category that others weren't paying attention to?
This is crazy because, you know, in France, and you know it, we have la baguette.
Yes.
And bakery is very, very popular. And then we come with the new idea, the bagel. And why? Because it's been 20 years that every French people who come in New York say, I love the bagels. We should have bagels in France. I do it. My friends do it. Everybody says this. But nobody does it. And when we were finding an idea, we said, okay, what can we do in terms of food that could be popular in France? Oh, everybody loves the bagels when they go in New York. Why won't they love it when they're in France? This was the first point. The second point is we need a place where we could sell all day long. In France, you have to understand that people have breakfast, lunchtime, and dinner. But in between, it's very empty in the restaurant. And what we wanted to do is to have people all day long. And so apart from the bagels, we also have some US pastries like cookies, muffins, cheesecake, crumble cakes, apple pies. So we had a lot of things for the lunch and the dinner, because in France, they will never eat a bagel for breakfast. They will eat for lunch as a sandwich or for dinner back home.
I know. What's breakfast in France? An espresso and a cigarette?
No, we quit smoking. No, it's a baguette with butter and jam or croissant.
Oh, yes, yes. You know, I have to say, I was actually secretly shocked that this has been so successful across Europe, because I've mentioned to you, I go to Europe pretty much every year. And the one thing I notice consistently there is that the food is sacred and it's not really rushed, whether it be like the casual espresso or an afternoon pastry. People just eat with intention there. And the bagel to me just seems like something we eat on the go here and not something likely that would be so appreciated across the pond. Was there any pushback about this concept?
This is very interesting, and thanks for asking. First, you need to understand the bagel by itself. Then I will answer with the recipe because it's important. The bagel by himself, the bread, the baked item. When we decided to go on the bagel market, we made a lot of testing, sampling. We tried with recipes, and I was not happy with my results. It was not exactly what I expected with what I had in my mind from New York. So I took my bagels, I flew in New York, and I knocked at the door of some very popular bagel maker like Tal Bagel or H&H or I don't remember all the names. And I said, I will never be a competitor of yours. I'm so far away. But could you help me? Because I'm not happy with my bagels. And they all say, go to hell.
I'm sure. Yeah. That's so New York.
Except one guy in Brooklyn. The guy said, come on, bagels, this is my whole life. I will never agree that somebody do bad bagels over the ocean. Come and stay with me for a while. And I stayed with him, and I corrected what was wrong in my bagels. It came from the water, it came from the time in the fridge, and the use of the yeast. So a lot of things that I corrected. And at the end, I had my New York bagels. And I flew back in France. And we had these market studies with the bagels. We made people trying, what do you think? And people didn't like it. People didn't like it because it was too dense, too heavy compared to the lightness of the French baguette, what they had in mind. It was much too heavy. So we had the New York recipe, but we had to downgrade it to adapt to the French market. Wow, it's much lighter.
That's quite a story. Who was it in Brooklyn that was so generous to you?
It doesn't exist anymore. He went to bankruptcy since.
Oh, darn. Okay. Wow, that was a really special story.
I don't have anything to do with that.
Okay. You know what, Thierry? Let's go to commercial break. When we get back, let's talk about, building Bagelstein, the brand, the attitude, and how you were able to scale. So stay tuned. You're listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970 The Answer.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Welcome back to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970, The Answer.
Welcome back to Culinary Confidential. I'm here with Thierry Vale, founder of Bagelstein, and we've been talking about how a French entrepreneur took one of New York's most iconic foods and built an international brand around it. Coming up now, we're diving into branding, growth, and what it really takes to stand out in today's fast casual food world. Thierry, welcome back to the show.
My pleasure.
Okay, what was the hardest part of the first year that no one warned you about?
Well, when we arrived, it was in 2011. Nobody knew in France, except the one that came to New York, but nobody knew what a bagel was. They couldn't even pronounce it, with a French spelling. They used to say bagel.
Oh, that's so fancy.
Yeah, they couldn't say it. So we have to implement the products, which was pretty tough. And we made some adaptations with the New York recipe from the plain bagels, but we also made a lot of designing for what we would put into the bagel, because people are used with high-level sandwiches in France. And so we couldn't put only cream cheese or cream cheese and lox. This wouldn't deal with the French market. So our bagels are filled with, it's not gastronomia. I don't know if you say this in English. It's not 3 stars Michelin, but for instance, our lox bagel comes with lettuce, red onions, cucumbers, lox, cream cheese, and yogurt sauce and lemon sauce. So it's a mix of different things.
It's more of a complete meal.
Yeah.
Whereas here it's like, it's like a bagel schmear, sometimes people put lox on, but it is just a simpler item here, I'd say overall. But over in France, what you're doing, it's definitely a more elevated bagel.
So this answers to your question is when you say in France, people are eating more on a classified way, and this is what's coming with, because we have some high level feeling for the sandwich. In December, for instance, we go with truffles and foie gras and fig sauce. Yeah, so we not only we adapted the recipe for the plain bagel, but we also adapted what we put in the bagel, and we had another change in last year, because we started with hot bagels. Not hot is the spicy, but warm, which we didn't do before. The bagels are toasted, but when you put some lox in a bagel, you cannot put it in the oven. You don't like the hot smoked salmon. Yeah. But then we have a new range of bagels with pulled beef and melted cheddar and fried onions, or fried cod with tartar sauce and fresh herbs. So this comes to another level, because we come to compete with the burger market. We don't have any patty in a bagel, but we have some hot recipes that come in competition with the burger market.
Wow, this sounds delicious, Thierry. Oh my goodness, I can't even concentrate thinking about this. Okay, when we're talking about scaling your brand, do you have partners or investors?
Yes, we have some investors, and we just are changing investors. So if you ever had raising some fund who would like to work with very nice and very smart French guys, I'm all yours.
What are some requirements? Like when you're looking at potential investors or partners for this brand, what do you look for?
We are very, very popular in France. We were elected for 4 following years best sandwich brand in France.
Wow.
So we are very popular. We operate, it's small for the United States, but in France, we operate over 100 restaurants in France under the franchise business. This is how we expand. But now we are starting to be very popular abroad. Believe it or not, but we are in Europe. We are in Belgium, in Luxembourg, in Switzerland, in Italy. But now we just opened our first restaurants in India.
That's amazing.
And I just signed Mongolia in Ulaanbaatar. You will check on the map.
Wow.
Now I need funds to be able to invade the world. So because it costs a lot of money to finance the capex, and
Sure.
we need some investments to do. But there is a real magnetism of the brand. When you start discovering the brand, you feel in love with it, because not only it's really good, but we have a very we have a very fascinating state of mind. I'm sorry, I'm not humble when I say that, but it's true. It's true. We have a way to communicate which is very, very unusual.
No, I love that. What do you think is harder, perfecting the product or building a brand of people that emotionally are connected to it?
You just put the finger on what it has to be. You are successful when you have the two on the same level. And then it's magic. And this is what we did in the beginning. But, we managed, sorry for my English, we managed to make a brand, and it was very tough, but we agreed that some people would not like us. Can you give me one brand that agree that people don't like it, the brand? It's very difficult.
Right.
It's very difficult because, let me give you an example. When you are in high school, at the end of the year, you got a very big national exam for people who are 18 years old. And the only thing they are allowed to have on the table is a bottle of water. You know what we did? We created some bottles of water, and on the labels of the bottle, we have all the answers to the problem. For instance, for the English examination, they have all the verbs with a preterite and all the way you tell the answers in English or in economy or in math, and all the formula in math were on the labels so that people could cheat during the examination with our bagel stand bottles. Do you get that?
Yeah, that's very interesting, Thierry. I'm really enjoying this conversation with you. Thank you so much. Okay.
That's fine.
How do you standardize quality at scale? Like when you're spanning the globe now, how do you make sure the product is consistent?
Well, for instance, when we are in Europe, everything is made by us. So if you buy a bagel in Italy or in Belgium and Luxembourg, it's made in a French central bakery.
Oh, okay.
And we do not freeze. Everything is super fresh, and we deliver every day or every 2 days.
Wow. So
And
this is the difference, though, in America, because in America, we mass produce things as much as possible. And there's usually, freezing processes, even dough conditioners for shelf-stable things. And you're not doing any of that. This is why your product is so elite.
But, in America, in the United States, you have these bagel sailor who are baking within the restaurant or within the store.
In the
like
bagel stores,
Einstein
yes.
Brother. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We decided that we wouldn't do this way. And this has a lot of advantages. The main one is our franchisees are not bakers. They don't bake everything. They don't bake anything, actually. They don't even have an oven in their store. They receive every morning fresh bagels. And they also receive every morning fresh lox, minced chicken, sliced tomatoes, whipped cream cheese. Everything is ready to use from our central bakery.
I love it.
And we deliver every day or every 2 days, so that our restaurants are very small. And so the rents are small, the investments are small, and the profitability is high.
That's a great business model. You know what, Thierry, if you're coming to the U.S., let me get involved, please. I'll open the first franchise. Okay, before we head to our next commercial break, you're the finance guy, right? Your background is in finance. What's a financial lesson you had to learn the hard way?
Do not spend a dollar you don't have.
That's great.
Thing. And you always underestimate the investments you have to do. You never are cautious enough. Because especially in the retail business, in the food business, you need more. Because, for instance, you will need a blender. And you say, my blender cost me, I purchased a blender for my home and it cost me $100. So you say, I'm going to buy a good one, so I'm going to pay $200. And you say, okay, I'm cautious. No way. Whenever you buy something professional, you just add a zero. So what costs you 100 will cost you 1,000. So my financial background helped me a lot with that.
That's great advice. Add a zero to the end. I think that's wonderful. All right. Stay tuned. You're listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970 The Answer.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Welcome back to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970, The Answer.
Welcome back to the show. I'm continuing my conversation with Thierry Vale of Bagelstein. We've covered the origins of the brand, and now we're getting into how consumer habits are changing, what fast casual dining looks like today, and where the future of food is headed. Thierry, welcome back to the show.
Well, I'm glad to be back.
All right. So when we talk about consumer habits, have they changed at all since you first launched the brand? What did you say, back in 2011?
Yeah, a lot of things have changed. First, a lot of things have increased in terms of prices, so we had to adapt because, in 2023, I just realized that my 9 bagels recipes in 2023 were exactly the same that the 9 recipes on day one in 2011. Wow. The only thing that have changed were the prices, and it was doubled. What cost $4 in 2011 cost $8 in 2023 for exactly the same thing.
That's crazy.
And my question was, and I'm a head of a franchise network. So how long would my franchisee will survive if the final consumer stop buying because it's too expensive? So we needed to rethink the thing. And so this is how we added some new ranges of products. Small prices and premium ranges. Premium ranges are the hot bagels that I was talking before, but we had some smaller bagels, smaller size, smaller prices, starting low prices. So this is how we swim in the shark ocean.
Do you think your clientele is touristy or is it French people?
No, it's definitely French people. We managed to install the bagels in France. This is I'm pretty proud of that because nobody knew what a bagel was. Now it's very common to have bagels. It's very popular now. This is why we operate 100 restaurants. But it's very different than the way you in the US eat your bagels. For instance, for years, our clientele were claiming French fries with the bagels.
They were eating French fries with the bagels?
We didn't have them, but they wanted to say, "Why? How come you don't have French fries? We need French fries with our bagels."
Oh, yeah, that would never really happen here.
We couldn't have French fries. Yeah, we couldn't have French fries because we have no vacuum, no extraction in our restaurants, because we don't have oven, we don't have kitchen, because everything is delivered on a daily basis. So we couldn't have French fries. We could have French fries with air fryers, but I hate this. For me, it's no way. But then we found a kind of big oil frying machine who didn't need any vacuum. It's like smell proof or smoke proof. And you could put this with no vacuum or no extractions. And then we had, for 3 years now, we have the French fries, and it's a game changer. It increased by 25% the turnover.
Wow.
People love French fries with their bagels.
Well, we're going to have to give that a try, Ryan Pagano.
Yeah, we might have to. We have a bagel store actually right next to our studios. Even though if I walk into the bagel store and if I ask for French fries on a bagel, they might look at me like I have 10 heads. Yeah. But that might have to be an idea.
Okay, Thierry, what do you think fast casual dining is going to look like in the next 10 years?
Well, this is really a tricky one because, you have some fashion things. But I remember a couple of years ago in France, I'm not sure about the US, but everybody would want like gluten-free. We have to pay a lot of attention to, is it organic or not organic? In France, people, they want to have gluten-free and organic, but when you show them the extra price, they said, okay, forget about the gluten. I love gluten and I don't care about organic. Give me back what I want. So it's very difficult to say what would be in the next 10 years. But I think that people want more, would you say authenticity in you?
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, they really need that.
Like they want a good quality product.
Yeah, but for a small price. This is a challenge.
Of course.
This is a challenge. And they don't want a sandwich that was made in a Mexican factory and that traveled from Mexico City to New York to be eaten in a fridge. I think that this will be history soon. They want to know where it comes from, how fresh it is, and of course, how many calories and all that you have. That we don't have in France. In France, you don't have to say how many grams of calories or proteins. There is no law about that, and this will come in France. But in the US, well, you have a way to eat that is very different from Europe. You eat much faster. For lunch, we stop for an hour or sometimes 2 hours, depending on the business. This is crazy in the US. Who stops working for lunch? You have a quick snack and time is rushing. And I think that it will not go back. You won't say, okay, now we stop for lunch because we need it. I'm not sure. I'm not living in the US, but I think that in the US, we won't go to the European world. But in the Europe, we come more and more to the US world. People work more and more for lunchtime. And so we coming closer to the US way of eating, unfortunately, because I think
I don't love that. I don't love that for you. No. You guys are doing it right over there, but I think you are onto something here where it's like we're never going to have a long, relaxed lunch. That's not our culture. The 30 minutes we have, I think people will be choosing a wiser lunch, something, quality product. Absolutely. Okay.
And there's something also very different is the delivery market. Because it's very common in the US to be delivered. It's very common in Europe too, but people now are fed up with delivery. There is a kind of, we don't want anymore. And I notice in my bagel sign business, but also with my competitors that I'm having a lot of talking with, delivery decreased almost 30% in the last 2 years.
Oh, that's significant.
Yeah. And why? Because French people don't like anymore to be delivered by somebody who doesn't speak French. He's illegal immigrant in the country. He's paying no attention when he's riding on the streets. And it's not ethical. And people really are fed up with delivering because of this first point. And then the price are much, much, much higher in delivery. It's like 40% higher than if you go on click and collect, for instance.
There's always hidden fees with delivery. No, I think that's really good, though, that as a community, as a nation, you're kind of pivoting away and saying, we don't support this. And it's also part of community to go out and pick up your food, right? To go talk to somebody along the way. And I think that is another huge difference between the European dining scene and the American dining scene, because we want fast, easy, and, non-social, right? You just want it when you want it here. Yeah. One last question for you, Thierry. What's one small step someone listening can take this week in taking the first steps to starting their own business?
Oh, what you like is not what your customers like. First thing. And this is one thing. But you need to be fully committed in what you're doing. Fully committed. And listen to me very well. I say fully committed. I'm not English, and I'm sorry for my English, but there's something that I know. Be fully committed. Don't be involved. We don't care about being involved. We need you to be committed. And you know what is the difference between being involved and being committed?
What? Tell me.
The eggs with bacon. Because in the egg with bacon, the chicken is involved, the pig is committed. Get committed.
That's a good analogy. I like that. All right, Thierry, thank you so much for your time tonight. What do you have next on the horizon? You're expanding in Europe, and then what else?
Yeah,
I mean, you're expanding in India.
And the next country might be Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Well,
that would be great.
And we are talking about South Africa. A lot of things to do.
You're all over the map. All right, this brings us to our ingredient of the week. For this episode of Culinary Confidential with Thierry Vale as our guest and a full focus on entrepreneurialism and hospitality, the ingredient of the week is yeast. Not because it's flashy, but because it's foundational. Yeast is small, unseen, and often overlooked, yet it's the single ingredient responsible for growth, transformation, and life in the kitchen. Without it, dough stays flat. With it, everything rises, and that's exactly how entrepreneurship works in hospitality. Yeast needs the right conditions to thrive: time, patience, temperature, care, and restraint. Push it too fast, and it collapses. Ignore it, and nothing happens. Treat it with respect, and it creates something extraordinary. That's hospitality entrepreneurship in a nutshell. Like yeast, the most successful hospitality entrepreneurs, Thierry included, understand that growth doesn't happen overnight. It's built slowly, nurturing teams, honoring process, trusting instincts, and allowing ideas to ferment because they're ready for the world. There's also risk involved. Yeast is alive. It's unpredictable. Sometimes it overproofs. Sometimes it underperforms. But the magic is knowing when to step in and when to let it do its thing. Just like leading a restaurant, a brand, or a hospitality concept. So this week's ingredient isn't about what's on the plate. It's about what happens before the doors open, before the brand launches, before the first guests walk in. Because in hospitality, just like in baking, the real world happens in the rise. Thank you for listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. on AM 970 The Answer. Tune in next week for another dynamic show where I spotlight another hospitality industry entrepreneur. I'm trying to get Steve Schuschler on for next week. We'll see if I can do that. He was the creator of the Rainforest Cafe and the Boathouse in Orlando, which is one of the highest grossing restaurants in the U.S. He's so great and has an amazing book about entrepreneurialism called It's a Jungle Out There. We'll see if our schedules work out for this. I sure hope they do. But that is the show for tonight. Thanks for listening and have a great night.
The preceding program is sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.